for those of you who don't know about the Wellesley Centers, it's an alliance between the Stone Center and the Center for Research on Women. And we came together to work on a joint mission to educate people about women's lives and how the lives of women affect men and families subsequently. Here, researchers and theorists come together to work on research, theory building, publications, and training. We're a member-based organization, so your membership allows us to continue our work. If you're not members, we encourage you to join us today. It's my honor and privilege to introduce Ruth Harriet Jacobs. She has been affiliated with the Center since its founding in 1974. One of her first projects at the Center had to do with Displaced Homemaker Project to get women back into the workforce. She's an outrageous woman, turning 80 in November, and her book can attest to that. She's written Be an Outrageous Older Woman, and she's written 9 other books. With that, she's a retired chair of sociology department at Clark University and has been a professor at BU and was the distinguished visiting professor at College of William and Mary in Virginia. She speaks all throughout New England and the country in the field of aging. In addition, she teaches memoir writing as a creative way to put our lives in perspective. What Ruth brings to us today is poetry in older women's lives. And what she conveys to us about aging is not something we need to fight against. It's something we can embrace. And do it in a way with courage, with wisdom, only because we can, because we're older. So, please welcome Ruth Harriet Jacobs.
Thank you. It's a great honor to be the first speaker in the luncheon series this year. I have been at the Center since I was in my 50s. And since you now know I'll be 80 in a few weeks, you know that's a really long time. How many of you write poetry? Okay, quite a few of you. Good. Well, I invite those of you who don't write poetry to start writing it. It's cheaper than therapy, and it doesn't have as much side effects as medications. And women's lives in society today are pretty stressful, especially older women who experience losses and suffer from ageism. So to write poetry is a good outlet. And also, since there is an epidemic of older women writing poetry, there are lots of groups where older women who write poems get together, share their wisdom, their life experience, and their pain and joy through poetry, and bond and support each other. And before this hour is out, you will hear from some women in these groups and hear their poems, and they will tell you how you can join these groups if you want to. When you came in, you picked up a handout that on one page tells you how to write an autobio poem. It's a structured poem, gives you the directions, and I never ask anybody to do what I haven't done, so I give you an example of my autobio poem. And on the other side of that sheet, you have, to save paper, 6 poems that I wrote about poetry, all squeezed into one page. And the top one is Poet's Mission. Write long-legged poems that leap across the page. Write short, toddling poems. Write with a cane, if necessary. Write poems no one will publish. Write poems that knock insistently at your door. Write reluctant poems, dragged from sewers and swamps. Write dangerous poems, and don't hide them. I got a lot of older women to write anti-war poems, and they're in my book, We Speak for Peace, dangerous poems in these days. Dry spell. Sometimes you wonder when your next poem will arrive. Worry where it will come from. You consider advertising for a muse. in the want ad section, or turning in your poetic license, or taking up essay writing. In a plane or waiting room, suddenly a poem bangs on your head. You search your purse for paper without finding a scrap. Then the poem writes itself on the margin and over an ad in the airline magazine or on your checkbook. You tear the page out gratefully and laugh or cry a bit, knowing the poems will not give up. I won't read the rest of the poems on the page. Yes, there is an epidemic of poetry writing among older women, and I'm trying to infect people with the epidemic, including you. It's a wonderful way to express yourself, to foster growth, and many older women have had things that happen in their life. They think they're alone, they share their poems, and they find out they're not alone. A woman came in early today who I know very well. She's a Wellesley College graduate, and she's had to put her husband in assisted living because he has advanced Parkinson's disease. And she's not a widow, and yet she's not really a wife at this point in the sense of living together. A lot of things happen to us as older women. Joining me today are some women from various poetry groups that you'll hear about. I thought I would start, since these are tough times, by reading you a light poem. Now, in the old days, poems all had to rhyme, and they had to scan perfectly, you know, da-da, 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 or some other scheme. With modern poems, they don't have to rhyme, and they don't have to scan, and today's poems can be fun as well as profound. So I want to start us out with a fun poem, which relates to many older women. It's called Pathetic Pack Rat's Plea, which I wrote, because I am one. Please, car, don't stop at garage sales. I already have bales and bales of garage sale stuff, which leaving behind was tough, because prices were cheap. So my home already has a heap of trash I shouldn't keep. Please, eyes, avert from a sidewalk with good discards that talk, like furniture which says free, that I'd better not see. Please, hands, don't grab a book, no matter how good it may look. Ignore any cheap or used book sales, or don't order books by mails. As my bookcases overflow with books on floor below, or books wherever I go, piled high on every table, that I'll read them is a fable. Please, feet, don't have agility at the town's disposal facility. Stay away from the take and leave. If I say I'll leave, I deceive. Please, nose, don't smell out church fairs with junk from other people's lairs. They're white elephants I don't need and should go away with speed. Please, memory, forget I was a poor child. It's long enough I've been wild to seek out, collect, and keep my piles that are much too deep. Time to throw out, reform, retreat. Being clutter-free would be sweet. It would be nice to be neat, but there's a garage sale down the street. It's called Pathetic Pack Rat's Plea. I find many older women write autobiographical poems. They write poems about ones that they loved who are no longer here as a way of keeping them alive. And they write poems about when their children were little. They write about their grandchildren. They write many autobiographical poems and share them. And it's wonderful because then they bond with other people in the group who have had similar experiences. In my own memoir, Women Who Touched My Life, I wrote about my grandmother. My grandmother, Mamita, was given the name Minnie on Ellis Island and carefully traced it on the report cards of 5 children. It was all the English she would ever write. When her oldest child, my mother, died at 30, she took a 10-year-old and a 3-year-old and traced Minnie on our report cards and on all those forms to get legal guardianship and state aid to feed us. She crocheted doilies for the social workers, begged clothes and camps, and within a slum kept a shining house. Half crazed by her daughter's death and endless poverty, she cried, screamed, had no patience with my brother, and even threatened me, good, too good, though I was. But every spring, somewhere in that slum, she stole lilacs to put upon my dresser and trace her love forever on me. This is a prose book about my life, but I snuck in some poems because poems can say things that you can't say in prose. Poems are the emotional language, and they reach from your heart to somebody else's. Many older women also write about their situations now. And although I've written 9 books and had lots of stuff in anthologies and all that stuff, it turns out that the most read of anything I've ever written is a poem I snuck into my prose book, Women Be an Outrageous Older Woman. And I'll just read you part of that in the interest of time. You don't have to buy the book. If you want to read the rest, you can come up and read it afterwards. Although if you want to buy the book, my publisher will be thrilled. I have some copies. It is Why Older Mothers Have a Tough Time. How many of you are mothers? Okay, you'll relate to it. If we are concerned, we are overprotective. If we are unconcerned, we are neglectful. If we nurture generously, we are withholding. If we nurture generously, we are smothering. If we nurture less, we are withholding. If we are successful, we are intimidating. If we are unsuccessful, we are poor role models. If we are available, we encourage dependency. If we are busy ourselves, we are detached. If we offer advice, we are controlling. If we refrain, we are disinterested. And it goes on for another page. I teach memoir writing various places, including Brandeis Lifetime Learning Program, the Rowe Conference Center, which I'll be doing in November from the 10th to the 12th, and there are some flyers about it here. And many other places. I've taught it at the Wellesley Public Library, at the Wellesley Senior Center, etc. So I've been doing some research as a sociologist on the themes that older women write about. And I'm trying to share it with you. But now I want you to see some real live older women and hear the kind of things that they write about. And the first person I'm going to ask to read is Lenore, who is sitting next to me, and who is an artist. But she took my memoir writing course at the Brandeis Lifetime Learning Program and started to write poems. and many women write poems about their new love affair with their grandchildren. And she's going to read those and some other poems.
Thank you. The first two poems are about my grandchildren. Rumpelstiltskin, is that okay? Okay, Rumpelstiltskin. Josh, age 5, fingers the candies at the supermarket checkout. He asks for a package of Lifesavers. Please, Mom, I'll give you anything. I'll give you money. I'll give you jewels. I'll give you land. I'll give you my firstborn child. And then comes his sister. Aviva, age 9, adorning my hair with ornaments, says, Grandma, you look beautiful. I ask, is your nose getting longer? No, but it should be. Aging. The step stool, which I had seldom used, is now a daily aid. My cabinets aren't higher. I am lower. Dairy Queen drive-thru. He reaches toward me with the ice cream cone, says $1.52, and quickly corrects it to $1.37. Senior discount. How could he tell? Sunlight Design, a gift is the title. Sunlight designs a rainbow bar on my dresser. I give thanks. Too personal. I've been journaling, revealing, healing. I fill the page. I read the page. I destroy the page. That's it.
Now I want to introduce Linda. Linda Havel is in a poetry group that I belong to that has been meeting for about 25 years in a woman's kitchen in Wayland. And some years ago I met Linda, and when we have a vacancy we invite a new person, and one of our members moved to the Southwest and we invited Linda to join. And she is a storyteller. She publicly tells stories at various places, and there's some pamphlets here of hers if you want to see them. And then she started to write poems, and I have seen enormous growth in Linda in her poetry. And I've asked her to tell a little bit about the functions that poetry plays for her and to read some of her poems.
Thank you, Ruth. This is exciting. 17 years ago, right? It's probably about 17 years since I've been with this wonderful group of women close to my home, which makes it really nice. I didn't believe there were women close in Cochituate that were so wonderful. Yes, grandmother poems.
A little louder because that mic is for the TV, not for the other.
I will. Sorry. Bi-coastal grandparents. We always landed into rumpled hills. Those meandering shorelines crawled below fog-shrouded bridge spans. We always wheeled grandchildren up and down tilted sidewalks that glistened with morning snail slime. And we will remember the sweet petunias nodding welcome into a toy-strewn house. One that I wanted very much to read today, my mother, who just died at almost 90 in May, and this goes way, way back when I first joined the group, grew out of storytelling. It's called Family Resemblances, and it keeps getting revised every time I pick it up. I want to tell you about my mother. I want to tell you about my mother. An and the way her high-heeled ankles struggled to get out for the night. How I longed for the magical power of her pearled powder box. I worried about the foxy glass-eyed boa draped over her shoulders. Its eyes stared face down against her torso. I want to write about her adolescence before she had a powder puff or hand-beaded dress hanging in her sensuous closet. I want to write about her rubber bathing suit sculpting her body with dreams about million-dollar men. I want to write about her widowed German father demanding that she be good, like girls should be. I want to write about her chlorine-scented hands feeding mountains of laundry into her hand-crank wringer washer, squeezing desire to death. I want to write about years of loss. Then I want to go deep into her soul so I can know how she grew to be ancient, strong, a woman formed by terrible choices. Okay. Listen. If you cannot bear friends leaving, light dying, don't wait around for November, that long season of hoping for what is gone to return soon. It will not. While the woods keep secrets about hiding and melting back, pond muck shifts, avoids this fallow time. Stars keep their distance, we fold inward. Listen for our own footsteps. Last poem. Grandchildren again. Those many landings. I can show you where yucca and ocotillo bloom and clutter foothills. I know about desert light, how it expands space, where backyards still hold the scent of chocolate wet kisses.
Thank you very much, Lenore and Linda. You were great. I was going to have two other women here today. One of them is Linda Goldberg. About 7 or 8 years ago, Linda asked me if I knew a writers group that she could go to. And she wrote fiction. And I told her some groups that were at a distance, Cambridge, Boston. And Linda made a face, and I said, Linda, why don't you start one in Natick? You have the wonderful library, the Morse Institute in Natick, and they have some meeting rooms, and start a writers group there. And so she did. And there's a number of people that are here today who are in that writers group. Would you raise your hands? Kay, Shirley, Barbara, and some... Oh, Terry's in the back. And some people in the group write fiction, some write memoirs, and some write poetry. And Linda, who never wrote poetry, only wrote fiction, and wonderful fiction, her voice is great, started to write poetry. In fact, she took a poetry writing course with me at Regis College, where I occasionally teach. I teach around a lot of different places, part-time now. And she was supposed to be here today, and unfortunately, her elder mother, very old mother, called this morning and didn't feel well. And Linda had to rush over to Brookline to her mother's. But if any of you would like to join Linda's group, Shirley, will you tell them about the group and when it meets?
Sure. I'll stand over here.
Pass her the mic.
I don't think I need the mic.
You do because of the TV.
Oh, okay.
Oh, dear. Okay.
Okay. Fortunately, I fell into Linda's writing group about 5 years ago. And it has grown and is fruitful and accepts and looks forward to and welcomes new people. She holds it in the Mary Ann Morse Institute, better known today as the Natick Library. We have a good range of people all the time.
Mostly older women.
No, well, some older women, some younger women, some middle-aged, and now and again a man. But they usually, I think, feel a little overwhelmed, and they last anywhere from a week to to 3 or 4 months, but they're always welcome. As Ruth said, some write poetry, some write short stories, others are working on memoirs, and it's really very interesting because you never know what you're going to hear, and we have a lot of laughs and a few poignant tears. So if anyone has free time, once a month, on Tuesday morning, it's only once a month, so it's always on a Tuesday. It begins at 10 o'clock. Come and join the group and share some laughs. Second Tuesday. Thank you, Terry. The second Tuesday of every month. Thank you.
Thank you, and Shirley writes beautifully. And the next Natick group in the Morse Institute Library will be October 12th, and then one after that, if you can't make the October one, will be November 9th. And it's free, and everybody is welcome. And Linda's going to tell you about an opportunity for older women to read their poetry and to hear poetry at Borders Bookstore in Natick on Route 9.
Just remembered, this coming Tuesday evening at Borders Bookstore, not Barnes & Noble, but Borders, it's cozy, it's lovely, and the people come in a fair number like this. And you may read your own poetry, if you wish, and it's just great.
And it's run by B.J. Thurston, who is a member of the writers group that Linda and I are in. I'm actually in 3 writers groups. You wanted to add something?
It's Framingham.
It's in Framingham, yeah. It's on the Natick Framingham line. I'm sorry. And the time, it's 7:30. And there's a coffee shop there. You can get coffee and something with lots of calories if you want to.
This next Tuesday, the 3 readers from the Wayland Poetry Workshop.
Next Tuesday, 3 readers from the Wayland Poetry Workshop will read. And I want to tell you about the Wayland Poetry Workshop. A wonderful woman named Dee West, who has traveled a lot, very bright and interesting, does not herself write poetry, but she loves it. And she facilitates a free poets group that meets at the Wayland Public Library downstairs twice a month on Wednesdays from 2 to 4. And the next one is November 17th, and the one after that is December 1st. Meets 2 Wednesdays a month. From 2 to 4, it's free. And there are about 25 people who come to that. Usually about 20 make each meeting. You know, I couldn't go yesterday because I was teaching, whatever. And everybody gets a chance to read. And Dee was going to come today and talk to you. And most of the people in that group are older women. There are 2 men in the group, both older men, and 1 or 2 young women, but mostly older women, and we've been sharing for years. It's a wonderful group. So all of you are welcome to come to any of the things that we mentioned. The Natick Senior Center also has a group called the Writers Guild, and Barbara Krensman, who is an excellent poet, is part of that. Would you come and tell them about that and when it meets?
The Natick Writers Guild meets at the Natick Senior Center every Tuesday at 1 o'clock. And it's a fairly good-sized group. When we're all there, I think we're about 20. And the level of expertise ranges widely. And people come together. I think I joined about a year or maybe 2 years ago. And it's really got me going. I've been a painter, and I've been a musician all my life, and I'm very excited because I just realized that I can put color and paint and words and sound together, and I'm looking forward to doing that, and with a synthesis of all the stuff that I've loved to do in my life. And so I welcome you to the Natick Writers Guild. If you wish to come down and visit and join us, I'm sure you'll be welcome.
Yes, and you wanted to say something?
Well, I'd like to put a plug in for my own group. I took over Rose Goss's group in Holliston at the Senior Center. It's 3 towns out, I guess.
Yeah, Terry, who writes wonderful poetry, is running a group at the Holliston Senior Center. When does that meet?
And that's the day before Linda's. It's the second Monday of the month, 10 to 12. It's a small group, and we don't mind being small. We don't publicize, but if anybody wants, it's free. You know, it's very informal. We usually have a writing exercise, and it's always surprise. We don't tell you what you're going to do. Sometimes we put it in the bulletin, the Holliston bulletin, what the subject is going to be, and sometimes we don't. And it's a lot of fun. Who's here that comes? Kay Barone.
Yeah, Kay is sitting here, is a wonderful poet and has written children's books.
Right. She's published by the Museum of Fine Arts here in Boston. Sold 6,000 books.
Kay, would you stand so they can see you?
Yeah.
Very distinguished.
Yeah. She does artsy things.
Yeah.
She knows how to do that. But anyway, it's the second Monday of each month.
You don't have to live in any of these towns to belong to the groups.
Right. I live in Natick, so does Kay. And I took over from Rose Goss's, whose wonderful book, Irish Stew.
Yeah.
Published the week before she was killed on the highway.
Yeah, Rose took poetry writing with me at the Wellesley Senior Center and also memoir writing with me. And I did teach 4 sessions of poetry writing last summer at the Wellesley Senior Center, free. And I will be teaching them again as a volunteer, so the course is free, sometime this winter. And I may also be teaching, I taught last year also for a month at the Wellesley Public Library. So you're all welcome to check out the Townsman, the Wellesley newspaper, or call the library and the senior center and find out when those will be. Many senior centers have writing groups for older people. And the Natick Writers Guild, which Barbara Krensman told you about, put out a wonderful book of the writings of older women. It's really, and men that are in the Writers Guild. The Newton Senior Center has just put out a book called From Here to There, which is all poems and other writings, short writings, by people who go to the Newton Senior Center. And I'd like to read you a few poems from that book. One is called Sisters, and it's by Lenore Goldstein. When God gave out sisters, did he pass you by? He seemed to be with me, but I figured out why. I had to work harder to find my own. There are many out there, ready grown. Along came Rosemary, my very first friend. Would she please be my sister, though she had 3 of her own? She said, yes, yes, of course. Oh, yes, sirree. I said, we, oh golly, oh gosh, oh gee. You see, we were only the age of 3. He, God, led me to others. I won't name them all. From the cream of the crop, my sisters I'd cull. A God-given sister is a gift from above, but so is one shopped for, and chosen with love. Thank you, Lord, for the sisters who care. Thanks for sending gifts so rare, gifts to be treasured all through life, whether in sorrow, in joy, or in strife. One may have sisters from a mother, still I'm grateful for the other. Though far and wide I've had to seek, I found sisters forever to keep. And Dita Lowy, who is the widow of Louis Lowy, who some of you know because he was a professor with me at Boston University for many years. We both worked there. Dita wrote a very moving poem called Night. Why does, at night, the world loom so large? Why does, at night, a minute pain turn into a dread disease? Why does, at night, each small concern become an insurmountable problem? One seems split all the way, mind and body. Proportions shift out of their accustomed place. One lies in bed suddenly. The whole room seems to have space enough inside one's head. Yet, what is night? The world has merely turned over. I'm a gerontologist. I told you I do research on aging and women's issues. And for many, not sleeping a lot is one of the problems. I get up at 4 or 5 a.m. and I'm in the swimming pool at the Longfellow Club, usually by 5:30. But I have adapted, so don't call me after 8 p.m. I'll read just one more, a short one. In the mirror, this is by Eleanor Cohen, Change. In the mirror, I can't believe the me I see. Is this old lady really me? Inside of me, I'm still so young. How long ago had change begun? I thought when I grew up I'd be so sure, so sensible, so free, so rid of insecurity. But what indeed has taken place? A girl with a much older face. It's nice to run fun poems through and share them. Also, many of us older women are not happy with the state of society and are writing serious poems. I want to share mine, which is a memoir in a way. It's called My Life with Wars. Despairing, protesting uselessly, I watch another war, having seen too many in my 80 years. At 10, I first learned that humans war, deliberately kill in organized ways. Incredulously, I wrote my first anti-war poem. In high school, just before World War II, I wrote an English paper on the futility of war. As a newspaper writer, I wrote obituaries for servicemen, and to get the bios, called families who had not yet been notified. Those calls still haunt me. I also reported on boats bringing home caskets and wounded soldiers, stacked 3 deep in hospital trains, and see them still. Later, I volunteered in the Veterans Hospital, tended men whose bodies and minds would never heal completely. During the Vietnam War, I protested for years, introduced at the university a course in war and peace, had an FBI man assigned to my class. After the war, I tried to help my Vietnam War students, mired in guilt and despair, even suicidal. I had hoped to see an end to war in my lifetime. I have no peace. Do any one of you want to say anything else? Okay, let's turn to the audience for, we always leave the last 15 minutes for questions and discussion. Barbara, you want to say something?
Yes, I just want to say,
Come in.
I just want to say, any of you see a notice saying that Ruth Jacobs is going to be teaching anywhere at any time, go. Because she's a wonderful teacher, she's generous, she's supportive, and it's a pleasure to be in her class, and you'll come out thinking you're wonderful.